Welcome to the Alarpa Podcast, the home for cultural chit-chat in and outside Madrid. People will talk. So, welcome to the first El Apra podcast of 2019. May I be the first to wish you, Merry, Happy Christmas, Happy New Year, Felices Reyes, and...
Happy birthday. It's only a few weeks.
Exactly. So, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay,
Full of energy.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah, you're bouncing off the walls there. You've developed an intense love affair with Seamus Heaney and to a lesser extent Samuel Beckett over the Christmas period. We'll be talking about that just in a second. But what was the best present you got this year? Apart from myself returning to the Spanish capital.
Oh. I was going to say continuing with El Alpa podcast.
I think you're out of practice because you're talking kind of low again.
Okay, I'll try to be louder.
Okay, great.
Is that better?
Hey, speaking New Year, maybe a New Year resolution is like not to be so quiet.
I know. It's every year's, but I haven't got any better yet.
That's fair enough. Okay, so are you going to ask me about my Christmas?
Yeah, what about your Christmas?
Thank you very much.
How was it?
That was good now, yeah. If you are ever in the Limerick area, right, I would recommend you go to St. John's Castle, right, next to where the buses go. It's an amazing place to go.
Next to where the buses go.
Yeah.
That will help them locate it.
Well, not the official Bus Éireann buses, but the Air Eagle buses that go from the airport. So if you're flying into Ireland, you get like Dublin Airport bus, Air Eagle down to Limerick. And where that bus stops, you can go to St. John's Castle. And if you go in there, you'll see the story of the destruction of Gaelic Ireland. Also more evidence of the connection between Ireland and Spain. But a really modern, exciting exhibition, and it's not sponsored by them. But actually, I really dug the castle, I have to say. And also, you can go to Bunratty Castle, which is actually technically in Clare, I think. But it's also kind of older. Not really much information in there, but you can kind of see rooms and that kind of stuff. But what's really nice is that you can see like little folk houses outside the castle and see different examples of a fisherman's house and a farmer's house and all that stuff. And there's even peat fires that were lit and on when we went in there, and it was kind of like a nice atmosphere. You can kind of see like the utensils, the bedroom, all that stuff. And one was a replica of a house that used to be on a piece of land, which now actually currently is one of the runways in Shannon Airport, which is an airport, one of the regional airports in Ireland as well. So I know, nobody was asking for a rundown of two castles in Ireland randomly to start this new podcast in 2019, but I said I would say it's just you have to start somewhere with this new thing. Any resolutions anyway yourself when it comes to the old New Year?
Talking more about castles.
Oh yeah, that's good. Is there any place in Leon to go see folk houses, kind of like fishermen, farmer?
Fishermen would be a bit tricky.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, well, there must be, but more in the, like in villages, not in the city itself.
Oh, really, yeah?
Yeah, I can't really think of the top of my head. But there is a very interesting ethnography museum. Yeah. Not in the city of Leon, but in the province.
Speaking of kind of days as well, Barry spoke about Suicide Tuesday yesterday. And he said in the old Roman calendar, I tried to search for information about this. I thought it was like a special Roman day, but apparently, according to Urban Dictionary, it is the Tuesday after a massive weekend. So if you've been taking lots of drugs or drinking a lot, of course, of which Barry is not doing, but it's not like turning libelous or anything. But it's like Monday you kind of feel the come down, but Tuesday's when you really feel the come down after all those artificial highs over the weekend. So I must look at it more into that. Maybe there's a Roman connection.
I wouldn't know.
That's a little less chemically induced. But a little bit of housekeeping as well in reference to our previous podcast, because we spoke about the movie Roma and how much we love it. So we'll talk a little bit about that in part 1 before we go to part 2. I saw today in the newspaper what you already told me last night, and well, what did you tell me yesterday?
About subtitling, because the news came out that for some strange reason Netflix had decided to put Spanish subtitles on the film, which is already in Spanish.
Okay.
And well, obviously it's like Mexican Spanish, but it's easy enough to understand, so there's no reason why you need subtitles. So there was a bit of a controversy there with well, even the director complained, saying that it's kind of like provincial and offensive in a way.
Yeah, it is very strange. Like, also Netflix putting subtitles onto it seems like something that they should have done in consultation with the director anyway. Even if they did a good job of it, it's something that affects the movie in a real way, because obviously for a lot of people, how they're experiencing the movie and the character's dialogue is through those subtitles. So you really have to preserve the essence of the director's vision when it comes to this. Yes.
I was just wondering, because I don't have Netflix.
I can give you access.
But you do.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering whether they actually kind of like force the subtitles, or is this only like for if you choose to have subtitles, or it has subtitles one way or another? Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder whether these refer to when you actually go into a section specifically to put the subtitles on, and then you basically choose, original or Spanish from Spain.
I don't think so, because this controversy wouldn't be there. And also, well, I mean, my PlayStation is just there. I could literally just turn it on and check. But no, the subtitles are automatically generated.
I like the pointing.
yeah, very useful for a podcast. But no, because when you set up your Netflix account, I set my Netflix to Ireland because I didn't want to have like shows I didn't know. But really, it doesn't really matter, because I'm actually, as I said, watching a show from Israel about Jews, and like there's a lot more international shows coming on anyway, which is a good thing. But originally, I put it just set for Ireland, so my preferences are in Ireland and it is in English. So whenever there's a foreign movie, from the perspective of my Netflix, even though I'm in Spain, then the subtitles are automatically.
It automatically okay.
So, but it is really it's
very strange.
It's very strange, and also it is obviously very wrong, because it's like assuming that the original country, or the country where the language originates from, is the be all and end all of that language. And also, as I said to you as well, specifically, like for any movie it would be wrong, but specifically for this movie, it is not good, because it is kind of a story about someone who's marginalized.
Yeah.
And like, she doesn't really have a voice in many respects, and then when she speaks in the movie, she's not actually speaking Spanish, she's speaking her native tongue.
Yeah, exactly.
But in a wider context, I think you could say, well, by removing Latino Spanish, or the Spanish from the Mexican Spanish, and putting in the Spanish from Spain, it's kind of reinforcing the power dynamics that are in the movie in a negative way, because you're marginalizing somebody who has lesser power. And obviously, historically, Spanish from Spain being the colonial language, it kind of also like just flies in the face of the theme of the movie, So so it's language is a powerful thing. Queen's English. Did you learn that when you were learning English?
At school.
At school, yeah.
Yeah, before I went to England, and then I learned everything I learned.
The independence in England had 2 articles about it. One was like 2010 from the president of the Queen's English Society, going like, I mean, we have to speak this way. And then like 2 years later, just a short like death notice for the society. Basically, nobody really gave a toss about it. It's just kind of like language. He made the point. The president of the Queen's English Society made a point in the article that there's people in Shanghai and Hong Kong who speak better English than somebody from Cambridge, perhaps. It's not about class or status. It's just speaking the standardized English, and
it is really.
Well, I think it's wrapped up in a lot of ideas of class, essentially. But also as well, he mentioned in the article that like it's easy to understand because it's in movies and it's in letters and everything as well. And he did make the concession that yes, if it's if it's EastEnders and the characters don't speak like that in real life, then obviously you don't write Queen's English. But I think obviously, well, from my perspective, too much emphasis is placed on standardized language. Obviously, you need to have rules and you need to have like some semblance of a structure in some regards, but other than that, you need a lot of room for it to be flexible and for language to really grow. That's another side note anyway. But like, yeah. That's so many exciting things happening over Christmas in terms of that. You also went to Seoul for the first time ever. So would you explain the Spanish tradition of New Year's Eve in the city centre, Seoul, and it involves grapes, not of the wine variety, but of the edible.
Yes, of the wine variety, but not.
You were drinking.
Not squeezed. 12 grapes.
You drank 12 bottles of wine?
No, but okay. You're supposed to eat one grape every time the
bell tolls.
The bell tolls, that's it. At midnight, and that's it. And, well, the theory is if you manage to eat them all before it finishes, then you'll be lucky.
Okay.
During the year.
Very nice. So you have indigestion in the moment, but look for the rest of the year.
That's it.
Well,
it's worth it.
Sounds good. Speaking of luck, 1-0 on the Spanish lottery.
Do you know? No. I actually did. I forgot to tell you that.
All right then. Well, on that sour note.
Only like the return, like we say,
Yeah.
The same prices I paid, then I got it back.
Okay, you broke even then. Well, yeah. I'm very happy for you.
That's it. Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, well, on that note, we will stop part 1. Wow, it's good to be back. And we'll give you a musical interlude and join you momentarily. Where?
In part 2.
Finally. So welcome to part 2 of the show, and we're going to talk about a lot of different things here. To start off, turning the microphone the right way, of course, is one thing, but we won't go into detail about that. So have you ever heard of geotagging?
I think you told me about it years ago.
What, in take 1 of this part 2?
No, years ago, as in proper years ago. Something about you had to find different locations around the city.
Oh, no. I know what you're talking about, yeah. It's a game on Google Maps where you have to find things hidden around the city, yeah. There's a couple actually in Lava PS, one in Thierse de Molina and another in Lava PS.
I think that's what it was called.
Maybe it is called that as well. But geotagging is when you're on social media and you tag the place where you are, basically. Do you do that in social media?
No, because I never have location activated.
Never, no?
No, unless I'm using Google Maps.
Okay.
For directions, but otherwise I hate having location activated because then it starts telling you you're at this place and it feels a bit claustrophobic.
Yeah, like Segovia, no?
Segovia, yes.
The Segovia. Anyway, but no, yeah, because actually, well, on a side note, if you go to London, on Google Maps, no, honestly, right, listen, right?
I'm just laughing at Segovia. Yes.
Oh yeah, you laugh at your own jokes.
No, what you said.
No, anyway, like it's connected to Wikipedia, so if you're near a place that's interesting, like a Wikipedia entry will pop up and kind of give you more information about it as well, which I guess could be interesting, or maybe it's tiring because the Segovia.
Yes.
Oh wow.
It's too much. I mean, if I want to look for it, it's only like 2 clicks. It's not as if it's taxing.
It removes agency from the choice as well.
Yeah, because maybe I don't want to know anything about that place.
Exactly. Yeah. Who wants to know about Hyde Park?
No, but or maybe I want to look somewhere else that is not Wikipedia.
That's true. I respect that. Encyclopedia Britannica, for example.
No, because you have to pay, you only get a stop.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't know. I tend to look at like 3 or 4 different links for things just for contrast.
Yeah. Well, no, geotagging, it probably just still has that name, but also it is the practice of checking. I've already said that. I remember, but it is a problematic thing. I've been reading because it means more people go to these areas, and they basically go to places like that are very near national parks, but it's the national park number of people, but it's a place that doesn't have the infrastructure of a national park and everything as well. And there's one place in New York where 4 people died taking photographs last year. So there's different risks and all that kind of stuff. But what was amazing for me is like a lot of these people, I don't get the impression that they are going to kind of experience this natural wonder that's been uncovered for them by social media. I think they're going because it's like a meme, it's a meme, it's a thing you can photograph and get more social media acclaim. Because if you see the photographs, it's just always the same angle, the same shot. There's one what's it called? It's in the Grand Canyon. It's like in the shape of an oval, and people go there and they take a picture of their feet right in front of it, for example. And it kind of reminded me of because there's a guy on YouTube called Pete McKinnon who's a really great cinematographer and does a lot of really cool videos about photography and making, how to make cool images, basically. And he talks about the bucket shot, which is like his shot that he wanted to take that was on his bucket list. And it's this place in Canada, which is similar to this other places I've seen while reading about geotagging. But the Canadians seem to have it really controlled because they only let a certain number of people in there. And he was waiting for the perfect conditions to get this shot, which is across a lake with mountains in the background and everything as well. So as great as he is making videos and how passionately he described taking this photograph, when I saw the photographs, I was like, it's kind of like, it's just, nothing really special,
Because you've seen it before in other people's...
Well, the thing is, I haven't seen it before, but if I had seen more images of that place, it would have been the exact same picture. I do know that. But it just didn't seem really fresh or original or anything. And then when you print it out as a poster, we kind of saw the poster in the video, not really the image in a kind of digital way. And I don't know, it's just kind of strange. Like even him, who's like really artistic and creative, when he goes to these places, doesn't really bring out the wow factor and just kind of takes the standard photograph. I don't know. It's just kind of curious. I have no idea why it happens, Mary, but maybe you can shed light on it.
That people take the same pictures.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's just this will for people to say, I've been there, been there, done that. I don't know, I would feel really embarrassed because I always want to go to places that people haven't been to, or if I go, I wouldn't like to share the same picture because then it's like, I don't know. It's like these people that share, and okay, my nephews have done this, but they are little.
Yeah, they're kids.
But the sort of thing where you, you stand at a distance so that it looks like you are putting your hand on top of the pyramid or the, Torre de Pisa or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, it just doesn't interest me at all, but then again, I'm not one to be like sharing everything I do on social media anyway. So.
Yeah. I know, it's just kind of curious. Like these shots kind of get built up quite a lot, but it's like they're underutilized when they're actually standing in front of these amazing natural landscapes. But enough of that, says I. So you have fallen in love. Congratulations, Mazel Tov. Seamus Heaney has swept you off your feet and
and into the grave.
And you found an interesting thing about his name.
I did.
Which I never knew.
You very much want me to say that on air, don't you?
Well, that's the point of a podcast.
Yes.
We both have to talk about something.
Well, yeah, interestingly enough, I read that his surname was an anglicized version of, one of 2 Irish surnames. And one of them meant descendant of Enna, which happens to be your Irish name.
Exactly. So son of Enna, more or less, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I told you some, but in reality it's a descendant.
Okay.
But
well,
same difference.
Same difference, exactly. And I can see you have a book here, Seamus Heaney, Poems 1965 to 1975. You have Dead of a Naturalist, Door into the Dark, Wintering Out, and North. So if you follow us on Twitter, we'll be doing this. It's every day for a month, no?
Yes,
we're taking
it
a
is.
photograph.
We might take a break for the weekend.
Maybe, depending on how the...
Not to run out of pages.
no, I think it's a fairly thick
No,
book.
there are
I think
plenty of
we should be
pages,
okay. You don't have to be so... Like, I can confirm there's plenty of pages, don't worry. We were editing a video before we did this as well, and you're the exact same way. Very literal.
yeah, I think I'm a little bit...
Autistic.
yes.
Yeah, I think you are too. Doesn't matter. No, so what we're doing is like we're taking a picture of a poem, so a page from the book in front of a location that's somehow connected to the poem. I think we have some nice images. Maybe we'll use one of them actually for the photograph for the podcast, so you can kind of see it straight away. And I think that's a good idea. So yeah, so you've shown me some of your favorite poems. I've kind of rediscovering Heaney through you as well, so thank you very much for that. He's a wonderful writer, so maybe you can fill us in a little bit on your journey with Seamus Heaney, and then we can explore it then after that scene setting commentary from you.
Well, that's a big responsibility. I didn't know him at all a few years ago. To be honest, I first got to know him through you. So, well, what I find very peculiar about his writing is that normally it's really hard to, or for me, it's really hard to find a writer I really like, but it's even harder to find someone who's consistent. You know, like usually, especially for poetry, like you like specific things, one poem, two poems, but it's very strange to read, in my case, to read through someone's work and find something relevant for you or appealing in across it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this is the most important thing for me. There's a variety of themes that probably I would have never thought of. You know, there's a lot of things related to nature, but very much related to like a rural life and landscape and so on. And I don't know, I never felt, for example, particularly interested about things like frog spawn.
Frog spawn, yeah.
Yeah. But there's something relatable about the things that he speaks about. I don't know, I think because they're very human, and somehow he tends to put himself in the middle of the action, whether he talks about things that are happening to him or to other people. And it's like some sort of universe, I think, of his own, but that doesn't really feel alien to other people.
Okay, that's a very nice way of putting it. I like as well. I know you like it as well. He writes almost like a novelist.
Yes, it's
or with great attention to detail. I mean, I think what a lot of people enjoy when they read something or watch a movie or even enjoy a stand-up comedian is that they say something that's fresh or original, or they say something that's familiar, but just with a hint of a new perspective. And I'm not sure if I said this to you before, but Bill Burr, who I've shown you before, I know you're not a fan, but I think him as a comedian, he gets pegged a little bit as an angry man who, you know, all that stuff. But sometimes actually what he says in his content is actually like a novelist as well. It's just very surprising in a good way. It's very original, and it's kind of very descriptive, like of an observer, you know. And Seamus Heaney, like there's a poem we took a photograph today, a very short one where he thought it was about cats. Ended up being about his mother.
Oh, you're not supposed to say that.
I won't even explain.
You sound like an idiot.
I don't even know what you're smoking when you're reading that. But no, because there's just a beautiful line that ends it where it's just like she comes walking in and cancels out the world behind her, you know, which is paraphrasing it, but really it's just such a domestic thing. But also universal, and you know, really speaks to a fundamental thing about when you go into your house, there is that element of a sanctum and a sanctuary, and if there is a motif running through his poetry, I guess it would be that idea of sanctuary, or it that sanctuary being broken, because of course he was an Irish nationalist as well, and I think he talks about the influence of foreign languages on the country, but also the fact that or even the idea of the urban-rural divide, and some of his poems have those scenes where things are being threatened by maybe modernity or things that are not natural to that landscape as well. There's another great poem as well that I really enjoy. You probably remember the title of it because you showed it to me the other day as well. It's about the sound of birds. How serenades. Yeah, that's the name of the poem. About how we are supposed to hear, certain bird sounds, but in his dreams and his daily life, he hears the sound of crows and what other birds does he mention?
Oh my god, I had to Google them all.
Don't worry, we have a book here anyway, so bear with us while we open it. Scaffolding. That's a
the classic.
So it's wait, I got it. Okay, midterm break. Oh yeah, this is just the page of contents. I remember
At a potato digging as well. We know.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second as well. But lovers on Aaron. That means one of the tasteful, not dodgy ones. Tinder.
Yeah, I thought that would be a funny one to put.
Not the dating app anyway.
Serenade
140. Okay, here we're coming. Okay, got it. Okay, so the nightingale, the sedge warbler,
which is the same.
Okay, good to know.
The Irish nightingale. Yeah, because the Irish nightingale doesn't exist, as a matter of fact.
And an owl as well, and bats as well. What's he say here, for example?
Corncrake. That's the one that I couldn't remember.
Well, talking about like the urban rural thing, he goes like, or the ack of the tramp corncrake, lost in a no man's land between combines and chemicals. Now we're talking about as well the imagery here, maybe almost like of World War One in a way, because it's talking about no man's land, and you have the idea of ack, which also could be the sound of machine guns.
Or war in general.
And war in general, but also, of course, because he was from the north, so he's talking perhaps maybe about the Troubles. And then combines and chemicals, again, this is specifically, I guess, maybe World War One, but it could be extrapolated towards other conflict, But what I like digging, for example, is a great example of that as well. You mentioned that you were surprised that a son of a farmer could write poetry. So
no, I didn't. You always twist things to make me sound like either stupid or horrible. No, that's not what I meant. Well, I was surprised, but not in a derogative way. Just in the sense that he comes from a very rural background, and also his father and his grandfather. He talks about them being farmers and working the land, and so. I don't know. For me, it was just quite, but I meant it in that it was admirable. That.
I think like obviously that his knowledge of the land informs poems like Serenades, and even when he's talking about things that aren't related to maybe the Troubles, he's talking about finding a peculiar form of beauty, or how there's a disconnect between what we should find beautiful and the things that actually are beautiful because they're part of our common and daily routine. Like for example, going back to the poem about the woman closing the door behind her, again, it's kind of honoring those routines that you find in nature, because nature has its routines. I think he's finding that in humans as well. But potato digging is a great one because it's such a clear and simple connection between the digging of the spade and digging with the pen, but it's something that rings true and feels real, no? That like how you dig for potatoes, you dig under the earth, but how he digs underneath the metaphorical earth, no? Of finding big ideas and writing about it. I think it sounds something that could read terribly if it's not written very delicately, but it's actually it just rings very true, and how he's in a way also honouring and continuing on his family tradition. I think it's a beautiful poem for that as well, no?
Well, I think it's a theme. The most important thing for me out of that poem is the first poem, I feel, where he expresses the idea that somehow, and it's a theme throughout his poetry, that he doesn't feel that he, not only like he doesn't belong to that world, it's more saying that he admires the people that work the land, that are like grafters.
Yeah.
In that way, but somehow he doesn't feel capable, and he doesn't feel he has the skills. It's not as if he doesn't look down on them. It's more the other way around. It's like he looks up to them, and then he almost says, well, because I cannot do that and I don't have the skills to do that, then I'll try my best to paint a picture of the world through my own words, which I think that's what makes it so elegant, that basically it's almost as if he's resigning himself to using words, because he's not able to use actions. And I think this is mirrored later on when he talks precisely about like politics and events that are going on in Northern Ireland. I think he stresses that idea that somehow he feels that he's not a man for action, like he's a man for words.
Yeah, and he actually ended up, and this wasn't common knowledge until recently, helping hunger strikers, I should say, people like Bobby Sands get their poetry published. So IRA men who were in jail were also writing verse. He helped get them published as well. I guess maybe as well another way, I think you're completely right, maybe another way of looking at it as well is I get a sense that there's like a discomfort that he doesn't quite fit in different situations, and depending on the situation, that could be for a particular reason. In the Troubles, of course, I think, to take a step back, it's almost as if he feels deeply connected to Ireland and everything that's come before, and he's writing about that in so many different ways, and maybe the weight of that as well can kind of feel overwhelming. In terms of, like you mentioned in the Potato Diggers, he doesn't feel worthy enough almost to be like them, and in the Troubles, but also as well perhaps he feels that because of the present situation, what has come before can't exist, because Gaelic Ireland is gone, and it's a country that's under either a linguistic colonization, or in the case of the North, actual physical presence of troops from another country. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
I think that's a theme too. He does mention a lot of things about how there's an Ireland that is disappearing.
Yeah.
He also focuses a lot on other like mythologies, like for example Northern European, like Scandinavian, and
Roman, and Greek.
Yes, and classical.
Yeah.
Myths.
Because there's one poem you showed me as well yesterday. Do you remember what it's called?
Anteus.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, where it's about a mythological hero who, as long as he's connected to the earth, will always win, because his mother is Gaia, but he's beaten because he's lifted up into the air in the sky.
Yeah.
And
as I kept on reading the book today, I found out another, like a later poem that describes how Heracles beats him. So what I told you actually wasn't in the poem yesterday about the 12 labors, but appears in a later poem.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a theme for him, but I think in the one later with the fight between Anteus and Heracles is
Heracles, yeah.
I think it's very clear what that's representing. I don't know. You'll have to read that and tell me, but I think it's quite obvious.
It's quite obvious, yeah. It's just funny as a side note that, as I said to you as well, that these mythological heroes seem to have one fatal flaw. I don't know if that's just some kind of moral thing, or there's like a theme or a metaphor to be extracted from that, or if it's just like for the expediency of telling the story, that there needs to be a way for the story to resolve itself. But if you play video games and beat a boss at a level, there's always gonna be one weakness that they have as well. So I don't know if it's a thing that is worthy of further comment, or if it's just like, again, for a way for the story to wrap itself up. But I guess as well, and like going back to the whole idea of Heaney being a novelist, there's a great line in one of the poems as well where he talks about like a man who says the same words but in a different accent, like home and mother.
Father.
Father, yeah, for example. And it's such a subtle detail, and one that I think is very compelling, because we really are defined by the things that we say or how we don't say them. And even going back to what we said in part one about Roma, so many, I know Spanish people who, if they get a call from like a Latino, because maybe they've a branch of the company there, they'll go, oh, they say that, it's a very funny thing. And even as an Irish person, we always get mocked for saying certain words or saying things in a certain way. So like language, even though like intellectually I think everybody can appreciate that it does demarcate people, but like having actually experienced how that works in real life, and then to see someone write about it like that, it really hits home. And it's a really accurate line, such a simple one, but one that really resonates, I think, as well. And that's his genius as a writer, that he takes those things that are everyday, but they really ring true. And truth is, I guess, a word or a concept in art that you would talk about maybe, but with Heaney, I think it's just there's an intellectual honesty there that I think a lot of people can really identify with.
Yeah, just before we met, I was reading a poem where he was talking about his first week in college, like when he was in America, and he actually repeats, like he puts in quotes what people tell him or what the lecturers tell him, which is that Irish Protestants speak better English than Catholics.
Yeah.
So it's like another aspect of like demarcation of, like we spoke about it before, of like an attempt to classify people from the way and kind of like judge people from the way they talk and their value.
It's funny because I think he takes things out of their context in a way. Like, I mean, for example, I think he believes in that flexibility, of language, but also flexibility of a bird that goes ack ack ack, of heroes making Greek heroes or Roman heroes making their presence known in an Irish poem as well. I think he sees like the barriers between different things being very porous, and I would imagine that for someone like him, this idea of a rigidity when it comes to language would be very alien to him, because if you see across the poems, characters and ideas and birds migrate from what one might consider their natural habitat to other kind of situations. I mean, for example, you wouldn't find a pen in a countryside field digging for potatoes, but there it is. So I think there is there's a fancy word for that, isn't there? Melassians, or I don't know.
Universality or something.
That'll do. That's not the one I was looking for. But yeah, this is kind of like this mixing together of things. So I think I don't know. That kind of represents, I think, Seamus Heaney a little bit.
In a nutshell.
Seamus
Heaney in half an hour.
25 minutes or less. So is there anything else you want to say about this poet?
No, I mean, go and find out by yourself.
Yeah. Well, no, he's a great. I mean, also as well, just before
keep a dictionary.
Not if you're a native speaker of English. Just
excuse me.
Well, also I like about him as well is that he was also included. I think I've said this before in a previous podcast. He was included in a compendium of great British writers, and he wrote a poem about it, rejecting it, going, neither. I can't remember exactly, but neither glass or flag was ever raised in toast to the Queen or something like that. So he was definitely on my side of the table anyway, when it comes to this thing. Yeah, there's even a poem about Thatcher here.
No, is it Thatcher?
I know.
But in the past, like I read, before I read his work, I read how he was really criticized for not being political enough. And to be honest, reading through his work, I think, you have to be very blind not to see. Well,
he has a poem called Personal Helicon, which is for Michael Longley, who was another poet from Northern Ireland who wrote about the Troubles as well. So I think if you read his poems, it's all there in black and white, but yeah, so I think it really touches the basis of lots of different things, and there's poems about Thatchers, people who make rules.
No, just because I had that problem when I first saw it, I was like, did he really write a poem about Thatcher?
What's Margaret Thatcher doing building a roof? That kind of thing.
Well, but you could play with that, and you like pronunciation and so on. So that's, it would be like quite, it would fit.
Maybe in English class, we could play a joke on them. I don't know. But I think that's enough for part 2. So thank you very much, unless you have something else to say.
No?
Alright then, part 3 it is then. So, thank you for staying with us for another episode of the podcast. This is where you jump in. As always, republics, monarchies, I don't know, you do your thing.
Radio Public.
That's the one.
The radio of the people. No, we're on Radio Public, as well as many other platforms. But if you listen to us on Radio Public, that made me laugh, then you help us keep on doing what we do best, or one of the things that we do best, because we do so many things well.
Okay, except talking loudly when appropriate on the microphone.
I talk loudly.
Not looking at this computer screen here. Those big mountains are my voice.
Oh,
and
okay.
The little troughs or valleys are your little... I'm a Spanish shy person speaker.
Radio Public.
Excellent. I know the reason I was kind of looking at you when you're saying that and making you laugh is because I read recently, this is completely random, but I'll say it anyway. Joseph Stalin normally. That's what I say, because you're like radio to people, and like when the Nazis invaded, obviously they were very, in dire straits. So he gave a big address to the people, geeing them up basically. And not only did he say comrades, as reinforcing the communist angle, but also brothers and sisters, which is the pre-Soviet kind of greeting. And he was appealing to our nationalism as well. So, I don't know. I just kind of popped into my mind.
Okay, so I remind you of Stalin.
Not exactly.
Not every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so, speaking of men of great historical import, James Joyce, we've just published a video where you were in Zurich recently before the Christmas period at his gravesite as well. So, we've that on YouTube. So, find us there, Lapper Media. LARPA1 on Twitter, LARPA on Instagram as well. I'm also on Tumblr and our blog Irish Slice of Madrid. So that is on WordPress. There'll be a link in the description of the podcast as well. So, I don't know. Anything else you want to say?
I don't know either.
Okay, well.
See you next week.
Yeah, okay, great. So thank you. This is finally done. The first podcast of the new year. It's always like, nerve-wracking. Do we still have it? And then you remember we never had it in the first place. But we'll be back next week anyway with more episodes and more content and whatever we'll talk about. So in the meantime, thank you very much and good luck.
Bye.
The LARPA Podcast, the home for cultural chit-chat in and outside Madrid. People will talk.